Before we move on, I'd like to ask any is there any conflicts of interest? Are there any? Councillor Goodwin?
We're looking at the speaking bank upgrade for minimums after we've got the operations.
Thank you. Councillor Leonard?
Look into it, just the board member to Aston, same again.
Okay, thank you. There are no apologies today. Great to see everyone on the line. So I'll make the apology. We have none. Second, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
I would also just like to welcome, before we move to public forum, to Robin, you're just here. Welcome. To welcome for the first time our communications manager, Lewis Young, and also our, you've got a special name, Gina. So that I get it right, Manager of People and Capability, Gina. So welcome to you, Rob. And also today, Oz is here as Acting Group Manager of Administration. So welcome. That's a $10 fine for you. $10 fine.
Well, mate.
Anyway, so we're now in the public forum, and I'd like to welcome Liz McGrady here to talk about this. And how the format works, Liz, is that you share your information with us, and then we have an opportunity to ask you any questions for clarification, and then if there's anything that you need to follow up on, we will do so and come back to you at a later date. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for the council, Liz McGrady. And I'm here firstly to give you a big shout out, Council Haku, everyone who was concerned with the free Paul Park Day on Waitangi Day. I think it was absolutely fabulous day. I know that the Mayor was there, I know Councillor Collins was there, doubtless others were as well. Focusing on the pool, the dive pool, there was just a permanent queue on first going round and circle between bonds. It was wonderful. I support former refugee families in town, and so I was there with one of my refugee families, and the kids had ball. They can't swim, but they had ball. They just playing, getting confident. Now, just get go outside, you know, to the side, and they came down again. 3 hours later, I had to drag them away. And 3 hours later, when I did drag them away, there was a queue at the door of kids wanting to come in, and I saw half a dozen more refugee families there. But I'm not here with my refugee support hat on, because they are not the only families in town who cannot afford $4 plus per kid per swim. I would love to see the pools, and perhaps in particular the outdoor pools, pumping with kids like we were on Waitangi Day. Carterton, South Warrior, I've got those three opportunities. So my request to council is, could we explore opportunities for expanding opportunities for free swimming for kids without it costing an arm and a leg, without it unduly cannibalising the revenue through the front door of the pools complex, without it needing a big top rate. If we might agree that in principle it would be a wonderful idea, if we could support more kids having free swimming, then it turns not on is it a good idea or not, but more can we or how can we achieve this? I've put a couple of ideas here. For example, 3.3. Just focusing on the outdoor pools. For the outdoor pools, let the paper punters have first pick at the cherry, but later in the day, from Boxing Day to Waitangi Day, the summer school holidays, could we be 3 from the outdoor pool? there's a million other variations on the theme. My key point is, can we expand the opportunities for free swimming, kids in Marsden? And specifically, I think what's probably ideally required is maybe a small team, maybe there's one or two councillors that might take it on as a bit of a, a personal thing. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing that we could achieve here in town? And work with Belgravia or maybe the Youth Council, or maybe just a little team of people to explore options for expanding opportunities for kids, in particular kids in Marsden, and get more opportunities for free swimming and swimming. Thank you, Council.
So does anyone have any questions of Liz? Just Stella.
Oh, so only Masterton, children only, that's what you said, sorry.
Carlton have got free outdoor pool. I think Houston have got free outdoor pool. Are we richer than those other towns? We all know people. I mean, we know that. No. The Masterton public pool facility.
So what Liz has done, which some of you will assist some questions or an expansion of the ideas, which is fantastic. Thank you, Liz. And thank you for the great feedback and praise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going
So we will talk about these.
Yeah.
Not today, obviously, and also our staff, because as you appreciate, we have a contractor for the pools as well through Belgravia, and I'm sure they'll have many ideas, and then we'll respond back to you. But we really appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, so
yeah, thank you very much. And we know your passion, which is fantastic. Okay, so now we move on to, there are no late items. And the first we come to page 6, which is minutes of confirmation 5.1, the council meeting on 10th of December. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Apple, seconded by Councillor Goya. Although any matters arising? Right. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. And now we move on to page 18, which is 5.2, minutes of confirmation of the extraordinary council meeting 17th of December. I'm happy to move. Do I have a seconder for those minutes? Councillor Bowyer. Are there any matters arising or that need corrected? No. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? The motion is carried. So we now move on. There are no committee reports, and we move on to page 24, which is 7.1, alcohol control bylaw, and I welcome Sophie.
Thank you, Leadership.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm just going to cover off a few points from the report on the alcohol control bylaw to be able to hear at the holidays opioid. In particular, this report asks council to make determinations that they're required to make. Approve the consultation documents, being the statement of proposal of bylaw over attachment 1, and agree to new meeting dates of the hearings committee. It also provides you with a report defining and analysing the perceived problem and options to address it. That's in attachment 2. There's a bit of background. In 2025, a few months ago, the council agreed to make an alcohol control bylaw for 1 year. This bylaw essentially continued the alcohol prohibitions that had been in place since 2008. It enabled these prohibitions to be in place over the summer period while officers undertook a more comprehensive review of the bylaw. We are now ready to seek community feedback on the proposed updates. Our review included an analysis of data from police and public order, feedback from residents associations and council services, as well as discussions internally on the functionality of the bylaw. There are 2 key proposed updates to the bylaw. One is to address alcohol-related crime and disorder experienced at South Beach and Castle Point at Labour Weekend and busy by including these restrictions in the bylaw schedule permanently, and other updates to provide clarity and improve functionality of the bylaw over its term. The police enforce the bylaw with other implementation and monitoring responsibilities for the council. This includes updated signage, current and new areas. Officers will report back on a proposed implementation plan following consultation. It is proposed that the consultation run from next week, Wednesday, 25th February to 25th of March, alongside the consultation on the street property. This is to avoid conflict with the in-plan engagement. All documentation will be available on our WhatsApp Audio website. Physical copies will also be available at Queen Street, Conserve and the library. The opportunity for people to have their say will be advertised through the usual channels, being Antino, emails to stakeholders and print media. A hearing is proposed to take place on the 15th of April, followed by deliberations. We're aiming to have the bylaw in place by. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions of the report, councillor Wayland?
Just, thank you for very important. Just one question. Has there ever been any feedback Christmas Eve?
When we were looking at the data, they didn't have fights around Christmas Eve when you spoke to police, but it's definitely something that we can, was part of the consultation.
That may come back as feedback.
But we haven't heard anything through our information piece to police about any other times.
Thank you.
Can I speak to the actual draft document? Are we at that point now?
Yes.
There's a couple of things that changed. Just, you've made some reference on to the kupu Māori. It's on page. It's in the kupu RPT. So you've got kupu RPT number 4, Riversdale Kitai, Mutu Kairangi is the Māori kupu for. I have to talk to Matua Robin about that too, but from Rangitani's perspective, Mutu Kairangi is the name for Riversdale, and Nagi Whakaoma, so you can put those into the correct translation. And then also, there was a note there talking about that there aren't any implications for iwi. Look, I just suggest that there are implications for iwi because the decision making that happens here is happening on our whenua. So I've raised this before previously, and I'm not sure where I go to continue at that level. Maybe it's with you, Karen, around just checking off there are implications.
So generally, provide information where there are specific implications for either Māori or iwi, and we know that in the statistics that Māori generally are overrepresented in areas of alcohol harm. However, it's a balance that we would like to make and not provide negative accounts of implications for Māori. When this does affect all of this particular issue, it's all of the community. But I certainly take the point, and if
Maybe it's just a different way to reword.
yeah, yeah.
May I clarify the consultation before we talk about what our main focus about this process and consultation is ensuring that Māori participated in that process, and so we've reached out to our entities to inform them before today that they'll be going out for consultation, and we welcome their comments and feedback. I suppose the limitations on data we also had that police don't provide that ethnicity breakdown, so we don't know what the extent of those issues are. I totally recognise this is on your whenua, and there are obviously implications, so we're really welcome the input and feedback from everyone others.
It's an opportunity of the conversation.
Yeah. Just in regards to those names that I mentioned, they were on page.
Will you be able to provide the interest time that you don't?
I did talk to them a couple of minutes.
Councillor Polly?
Sure, thank you. I just, some of the things that stood out to me in the findings was the both Māori and young people. And I just wonder if if that creates a kind of like a blame kind of culture on those three groups. I don't know if that's particularly relevant to Riversdale and Castle Point. Do you know if it is?
So those facts are in relation to the broader trends about youth Māori drinking, and it's in relation to the Health New Zealand survey. So that's just the broader trends. It's not necessarily to put blame on those people. Obviously, what we've heard in feedback about issues around Riversdale, so issues have been about youth. And so that's just the reality of the complaints and people that they've that police have responded to. So that's clear with that. It's not a blame thing, it's really that the bylaw can only address certain amount of issues. There are some issues that bylaw cannot address as well, that are more systematic.
Sorry. So I was just wondering if that's in regards to making the decision on the bylaw, does all of that need to be in there? Yes.
So we'll note that. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? No? The recommendation is in the report. We won't read out all the points. But do I have any motion? Councillor Campbell, go ahead, second, Councillor Holmes. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. So now I'll move on to 7.2, which is the Wellington Triennial Agreement, which is on page 86. Now I'll hand over to our Total Managing Strategy, Karen.
Well, Tato, this report is seeking your agreement to enter into the Wellington Regional Triennial Agreement. This agreement is required under the legislation under the Government Act to identify the ways that we have that we work with the other councils within our region and setting up what protocols we have for that. This agreement has been refreshed, and there's a couple of things that I'd like to point out to you that are of note. So we have added in there the waste minimisation joint committee, as one of the ways that we work together. We have also updated in the proposed work streams, which we see as significant in the next triennium. Those are under the heading of shared services and governance structures, and that's particularly focusing on discussions around amalgamation and in forms that we're working through at the moment. The local government and legislative reforms themselves, working to coordinate responses. And significant regional matters that we're working on. This is mostly through the leadership committee, and that's our region planning, economic development, spatial planning, and looking at cost efficiencies and service delivery. The other matter is that Greater Wellington have agreed to take over the administration of the agreement, which has been announced before. So we're very happy for Greater Wellington to put their hand up to that. So happy to take any questions.
Not necessarily a question, but a card. Whatever you're reading. I'm going to read this so that I get it all the time. Just want to acknowledge that I haven't had the opportunity to talk to Conan and all the other iwi entities that are part of this agreement. I'm not speaking on their behalf, but just a bit of a structural reflection from my own perspective. I get that section 15 says that the triennial agreement is with the other councils. I understand that, but that's kind of like the minimum. There are opportunities to include iwi Māori. And so it's, we're talking about, I understand that you've got the mana whenua in there. We're talking about Māori participation. Otira in the Act, section 4 requires councils to recognise and respect Crown's responsibility under the Te Reo Waitangi and to maintain and improve opportunities for Māori to contribute to decision making. So I'm going to the vice minister. Section 14(1)(d) reinforces that. Section 81 requires councils to establish and maintain processes to provide opportunities for Māori to contribute to decision making. This agreement sets out the framework for regional collaboration on matters such as local water done well, and spatial planning, adaptation, emergency management and economic development, as you've already said, Kara. And that areas where A, we have an interest in, but B, we're already at those tables. So it seems incongruent that you wouldn't also include us in this agreement. And so my question here is whether or not there's an appetite amongst the elected members to consider whether this partnership should be more visibly reflected in the document. I'm not proposing an amendment, I'm just suggesting. that before we settle on this for the next 3 years, whether or not it's a whakaaro that you as a team want to do, to consider including the mana whenua across the area as a partner to, as a,
That's something that is able to take back as a comment to before we sign it up, get this recognised.
yeah,
I was also acknowledging the Harangi, as you said, that they will at the table. So structurally, they are, but I get your point. Yeah, okay, so we'll take that back and then we'll discussion. Councillor Hyde? Was there still got questions?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just get questions out for clarification, then we'll come to discussion. Are there any other questions, Karen? Gary?
Karen, I noticed in the, it talks about being administered by the Wellington Regional Council on an ongoing basis, the agreement for 3 or 4 years. As we know, the regional council's survival has been questioned now by government. Has that been considered as part of this?
We'll get on to that when we talk about our submission on supplying local government. The proposals for simplifying local government don't propose to disestablish the regional councils, just the council laws. So the councils will continue and their functions will continue under the proposals, so to the CTB. So one of our questions is how does that work? So it's okay for us to keep referring to the regional councils until such time they are established, disestablished.
Any further questions? Yeah, we're open for discussion now. Councillor Holmes.
Just going to say that as the elected member on that Western organisation group in Wellington, I have to say that I was, and I'm not only at all, I'm still learning, but I was most impressed with how everybody got together, everybody. And I think it, I take on board what you're saying, but I was never aware that nothing wasn't working.
I'm not saying that.
Any further discussion? Right.
Kia ora. Just as a total call for a new suggestion, I think when we talk about genuine partnership, that's an opportunity for us to include a genuine partnership by demonstrating or having a mana whenua representative or representatives sign on behalf as well.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that the page 87 of the safety agreement doesn't bind us. It's accurate. It's reassuring.
Thank you. The recommendation is in the report. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Holmes, seconder. Councillor Lennox. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now we move on to item 7.3, the amendment of the elected members' allowances and expense reimbursement, which is on page 95, and I'll welcome AJ to the floor. Thank you.
Once again. Thank you, Mayor. But this is a very small paper seeking recommendations for amendment to the members' allowances and reimbursement policy that was approved in November last year. The two amendments is wanting to include an allowance for security systems if needed, of up to $4,500 per member, and a slight increase in members' allowances for fees for attend hearings, with the chairperson increasing from $116 to $130 an hour, and a councillor member increasing from 93 to 104. So it's a reasonably minor paper. I can bring any questions.
Lennox.
Thanks, AJ. Are there any historical concerns or events that our elected members have experienced in the past due to issues around their home security?
Because we've seen the paper, we're not aware of any at the moment. So it's putting provision in there that the remuneration authority is allowed. There was actually an article on the paper on stuff the other day, and I think this is only about 2 councillors that applied for this allowance. So it's putting it in, look, it's allowing it. We hope that we never actually get to apply it for any of our councillors, but it's putting it in to enable it should the worst case happen. And obviously the paper sets out that security wouldn't be authorised unless there's an independent security risk assessment undertaken for the councillors.
Thank you. Andrew?
It's, is there already a big level to elected members and hearings meetings?
There's allowed for, yeah, so this is a slight increase within our policy there is we don't have a lot of a lot of experience against that.
Yeah.
But it is set in our policy and it was set in the November one at the respective 116 for the chair and 94 for a hearing member.
It's already in place.
It's already in the policy. This is just the yes. Yes.
Just a quick question. I know that this was sort of talking about physical security, but is there anywhere in any of our council documents where we talk about the online security? So that, people who don't get attacked through the social media and can get cancelled per se. Because we're talking about security, so I'm just
I'd have to check on that. I'm not sure on this another council officer or somebody from IT.
There are other provisions.
Yeah.
So just to let you know that we have had whānau members be subject to that before those kind of attacks. So it might be something, as we progress into this kind of digital age, it's probably something that you need to start getting at.
Are there any other questions? Do I have a mover for the recommendation?
We have a discussion.
Yeah, after the emergency. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Collins. We're open for discussion now. Councillor Boyd.
Yeah, look, just a clarification around the checks and balances. So if someone was to, in 2 years' time or 6 months before the next election, say, geez, I want a security system, that will be looked on, will be frowned upon because of the possibility of it not being re-elected.
We're beyond the question. It's going to be an independent sort of assessment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, to determine whether or not the threat is real. So we want to make sure that our elected members are safe. So we would do what we can, even if it was a temporary solution, we make it system.
Does this extend to potentially, like, I don't think that we're this kind of country where other whānau members get attacked, but I'm not saying we're heading down that track. So I just wonder if that's something that we need to consider also, is how far forward reaching do we want to take protection for the members?
Yeah. Discussion. Yeah, actually, yes. I'm actually against this whole policy. I think it's a nice to have. I think it's not fair that we take 49,000 and remove the maximum against ratepayers and ask for a small amount, but for me as a principal, we get paid for bidding. We need to keep the system, get on still to sell. There's plenty of reasonable team. But yeah, I'm against the camera thing, so that's a no for me, but I am for the hearing fees for them.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, Councillor actually, this policy only exists if you actually, if you want to be part of it. What we're saying is that everybody's going to feel like if somebody around this table does have a problem, then they've got something to go. We're not making you take it. This is your choice. So basically, whether you vote for it or not, it's your choice. My feeling from the last couple of elections actually has been that there is a level of abuse out there, and a lot of stuff around reported that we take it as being part of just to have it as well. I know in the last election, we had data as well where news letters operating around the place telling people how to vote, and We had, other things, you know, I personally had, abuse on social media. But at the end of the day, it's taken to say part of the job, and I don't think we should have to, and particularly this affects, women. You know, the last couple of, meetings on to in Wellington, when they discussed this, it came out very strongly that, a lot of young women will not stand council pressure that they're under. And I think if we want those sort of people to stand for council, they have to have this sort of protection. Thank you.
Councillor Goodwin?
My objection to this is essentially what level of risk do you plan for and spend time on? Okay, there's been 2 people in New Zealand, which is, you know, very bad. And, you know, possibly, you know, in 10 years, one of them might occur, you know, just before the election, which would create another problem. But can't we, as an organisation, react to what's happened rather than trying to predict what will happen?
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I like Councillor Lennox. I don't agree with it either. And I've taken my fair share of abuse over telephones and conversations with people over the years, but I just don't almost use the same theory as I use it on the stray dogs. So they don't give it any when I've got told them.
My recommendation is, that I'll just say this, that we can split out the 2 actions, but we've got the first year.
Not in the council context, but I've been, you know, years in I actually needed it, someone really needed it. So, so it's very young. But the other part of it, wasn't weird. We are really well represented councils, and the fees for attending hearings.
I think there needs to be some clarification on your hearings, because, you remember we did a hearing on the dog? Yeah, we weren't paid, there was no extra pay for that. No, so can you clarify what hearings you're actually meaning, parents? It's not the hearings. Yeah, it's the hearing of the meetings by line. Yeah, so Tim, it's not the hearings that we have, for example, if we have funding and grants, and people come and do submissions. Town hearings. So could you just clarify that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the legislative provisions for hearings.
So it's the independent hearing board.
It's in the policy itself. It's
I still don't.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is split out the 2 amendments. So the recommendation in the offer is deal with 1 first, which is the home security allowance. So do we have a mover for the home security allowance fee as in the paper? Councillor Nelson, do we have a seconder? Councillor Collins. All those in favour, please raise your right hand.
To proceed.
To proceed with it. So that's 3 and against. So that motion, that resolution isn't carried. Carried, did you do the against again, please?
Yeah.
Against. So that's not carried, and the second resolution was to increase the fee payable to elected to participate in hearings. Okay, mover please. Councillor Bowyer, seconder. Councillor Lennox. Once again, raise your right hand. All those in favour? That's 1, 2, 3. So the motion is carried. Thank you. Good discussion. Now, we'll move on to page 110, which is 7.4, simplifying local government in our. Thank you.
So this, paper is to seek your agreement to make the submission that's included, to the Department of Internal Affairs on the proposal for simplifying local government. This is a time of significant reform for local government, as you're all well aware, and these proposals seek to respond to that, to address a perceived problem of duplication and confusion between local and regional government. The proposals look to set up a combined territories board of the mayors of each of the district councils and city councils within the region to govern the regional council functions, and then to develop a regional reorganisation plan of 2 years. Our submission takes the view that we agree that there is a need for efficiency within the system. That was very much the tenor of submissions that we made future for local government under the previous government. But we have a number of concerns with this particular proposal. So just to take you through a summary of those concerns that we report, is that we consider that there is a lack of a clear problem definition within the discussion document that's released. The proposal doesn't exactly go into any specifics around what the problem is trying to solve by removing their council laws. The examples that are given are largely anecdotal, things like nobody knows the regional chair's name. We consider that something as significant as changing the way that local government and regional government is set up is significantly does require a good problem definition and analysis and options, and it hasn't provided any of those. It appears to have just jumped to a solution for those specific problems. We consider that there is significant democratic impacts on the proposal. Looks to replace the regionally elected councillors that have just been elected with the board of mayors. The board of mayors, the mayors themselves, of course, have been elected to represent the districts and the cities and not have a and so we are confused as to how those are supposed to be abandoned, therefore they pick up that through the middle of the triennium. And it's constitutionally repugnant to get rid of a layer of democratically elected representatives part of the term. We are concerned about the workload and capability of the mayors to be able to do the job. I'm sure that our mayor will tell us exactly how heavy it is to do her own job, let alone doing the job of looking after the region. We don't think this has been very well thought through as to actually how they're going to run the regional council functions as well as look after their own district. There's funding and implementation questions. Who is going to pay for this if there is the regional council? How do we use that financing? How do we use that to support the broader regional council work as well as the district council work, particularly when we're looking at the same time rates capping and other reforms that look at simplifying the proposals for local government. We are concerned around there's an alignment with existing legislation. We already have proposals under the Electoral Act, Local Government Act, and the organisation that put out a schedule for as to why these proposals would not use those proposals. If those processes are not working, then the answer would be to amend those current provisions in Schedule 3 rather than introduce more structural changes. Particularly concerning around treaty partnership and Māori representation, there is some very high level commentary around how iwi Māori interests will continue to be representative, but at the same time, the proposals look to remove the two constituencies, Māori constituencies that exist in legislation, and it's not clear about how Māori continue to have a view around the table when it's simply done as looking after the regional council functions. And this all comes in a much broader reform environment, as we talked about. It's not clear how this will impact or interact with all of the other reforms
We've set out in our submission more detail around those concerns. Apologies for it, the submission will be very repetitive, but it is designed to be consistent with the DIA feedback form. We have been advised that AI will be used to consider those responses. So we have to keep replying and being repetitive just to make sure that AI didn't ignore what responses were. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Lennox. Thanks, Karen. Thank you for that. So I understand it's our submission from us, the district council, but are we sort of similarly aligned with our restart Castle and South Wairarapa? Do you know if that kind of on the same page as we're at?
I haven't had any specific feedback. I wonder if the chief executives have had any feedback from the mayor around those proposals themselves. But I am aware that coming through around the country very much. We all, and the LGN said, and council are responses to our submissions we've had an opportunity to look at, and everybody's in agreement that reorganisation is needed. There is some duplication. there are better ways of doing this for a small country, and particularly as functions will be removed away from government. For example, some of the items that we have for raising revenue will be removed, and we'll need to our balance sheets to see, what state we're in after that. So we absolutely need reorganisation, but I haven't heard any support for.
And do you know what the plan is once they've received your submission and now how long it will be?
We received a response from the minister to our letter around reorganisation, and that identified that so responses are due this week, next week, and we will be made aware of where their thoughts are, which will align with the Resource Management Act intents to get that through in June for the election.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Goodwin.
Is there any response for Wellington?
Trying to recall if I've seen a response from Greater Wellington, and I don't think I have at this point. But interestingly, the talk is very much around removing the councillors from council. If the intent is to create unitaries, then actually it's territorial authority thing, because it will just be using councillors left to do all the consumption. So it's interesting how this is being positive, that it's getting rid of regional councils, in fact it's beginning to be territorial authority.
Surely though, Great Wellington will be submitting to this.
Absolutely.
So I guess the question is, can we get a copy of this?
And there's also the discussion that's happened around the mayoral forum around the triennial agreement and working together to come up with a proposal, and very much, I'm just remembering now, actually, there are the discussions from the various districts and cities within the region and Greater Wellington. Let's move straight to that stage 2, rather than having to PTB, move straight to 2, which is the reorganisation proposal, and that's the work that's happening across the region through the mayoral forum about what should the structure look like if it is a regional structure. Is that clear? So I am confused you.
This question, or should we come to discussion?
Look, I still don't know what problem in front of us. Or even Australia. Just so it's a bit difficult to respond.
Very true. We're not there. People don't know the names of the councillors. I think some responses were people don't know their names of some of the ministers either.
Are there any other questions? I'd like to move the motion. It's been moved in the report. Do I have a seconder? And we'll move to discussion. Councillor Campbell, discussion. Okay, that's nothing. I support this submission. I don't think it's been thought through. I think it's been nice and it's actually taken one layer of representation and democracy without thought of how that will come into effect with regards to regional responsibilities, and then to think that mayors who are appointed to actual individual local districts will be in a position to take over regional responsibilities so that people are better fund regional council. The other thing that raises the head as well is just take out a layer of governance and then review what regional council services it provides and who's going to pay for that, is focusing on the small step, which is governance layer, whereas what falls out of that. And we're a small population, as we know, in a big geographical area. And when, well, we're not in a position financially to be able to afford to take over the responsibilities of regional council. So there's a lot of discussion and water under the bridge that needs to come through. We can even look at this, which to me is like sticking your finger in the dike without actually addressing everybody's responsibilities, whether you're a TA or a regional authority. And as everyone has been tabled, we're working on securing that information so we can have informed discussion, robust discussion, and also with financial implications so that we're aware of how our districts, first, as worked by master and ratepayers, and secondly, our region will be affected by any proposed changes. So that's, is there anyone else who would like to? Councillor Nelson?
Thank you. I've been there too, and like these two feels I feel nothing but frustration with regional council again. Yeah, I'll be really honest, I really believe a little bit there. And so this new legislation, so now I do feel this. The wrong area, and I think it's important that we have this voice of Wellington if we want our own. So that's what's the issue.
Gary?
One of the this actually probably goes a bit wider than what this whole thing is in the paper, is the fact that the number of years that we've got across the meetings in Wellington as YRAP representatives and haven't had our voice listened to or heard or even worried about. So anything to me that creates an opportunity for the YRAP to put itself out there and say, hey, listen, part of the region, we deserve to be recognised as such, I think is great. And while this is not meant to be part of this, I think it will come out of it. Give particularly Bex and the players or whatever an opportunity to say, well, yeah, we want a better deal.
Thank you.
I also support the responses. I think that this paper is very well written. And I think that all of the things that I value as a person and as a representative of our community are included here. Particularly, I want to bring attention to all of the parts where they've highlighted the issues and impacts on Māori. Absolutely agree with those things. And also the impact of costs that could roll out to our ratepayers, which is of course something that we want to try and keep as low as possible, because it's important to our people. So I just want to commend Karen and the team for this submission.
Councillor.
Yeah, I too also support this submission. This is another time it's our central government pushing that out through its doing what we should be doing. And, another step about losing our local voices. So I secondly would like to probably invite my background to check to the Western Council or possibly my district council to talk about this further so we can actually raise our concerns to how it's elected.
Thank you. Anybody else? So the motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Move on to page 121, 7.5, which is delegations of Mountain District Council representatives on the Wellington Whakatarua Limited Stakeholder Forum. Karen.
Well, so this paper, there's two parts to this paper. Following the resignation of Councillor Jane Kalu, who was the alternate for the council's representative on the Wellington Water Limited Stakeholder Forum, we need another alternate to be appointed. And the other side of the paper is formally delegate the responsibilities and powers to the person who is the primary and the alternate and undertaking. Those delegations have already been
included the shareholders agreement that council signed up to. Now this is formally making those delegations, so doing the thing that we said that we could do, and amending our delegations register so that actually takes into those accounts. Just one error, which is quite a significant error, noted on page 127, table 2.3. We have what looks like $100,000 delegation, but it should be $100 million delegation. There's an erroneous full stop when there should be a comma. So thank you to Johannes for pointing that out. Johannes is here, he's our transition manager, to answer any questions that you might have on the detail of what's in there. Have you taken the question?
Are there any questions? Councillor Goodman.
I am just curious, would, doesn't have to be a councillor, does it, to be terminated?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Doesn't have to be a councillor, but we have made that, so the actual shareholders agreement doesn't specify that it's a councillor, but you made the decision, matter of policy, that you would like both to be elected members when we originally appointed Ray and Ben.
Is there anything up? Is, it can be anyone. Indeed, quite nice if it was one last.
No, we decided if you like that one of it to be elected members.
Both from a matter of representation, but there was also discussions about payment as well.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Do we have a nomination? Okay. What we'll do is we'll go through the points. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we'll go through the points again. So the recommendation is there. I was put up in the previous meeting. Yeah. Craig indicated at the time that he would like to recommend Gary. And so today is the opportunity if we want any other nominations.
Ray, would you like me?
Particularly, I feel like someone from the opposition, something, yeah.
I'd like to nominate.
That would be needed, you know. That was a sad.
So are you accepting that, Brent? So Tim would like to nominate Brent. Do we have a seconder for that?
Just so clear, this is for the alternate.
Correct. Yeah. And the alternate role is not at the meetings. The alternate role is only at the meetings that breaks up. It's not two candidates at the meetings.
I believe the alternate team,
But can contribute.
which is very important.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's correct. Yeah. So do we have a second of the Brent? It has failed. So we'll go with the recommendation noting that in point 3, appoints Gary as the council's permanent representative stakeholders forum. All those in favour to Gary, do you accept that nomination? Do you accept that nomination?
Yeah. If I was very much negotiations beforehand, Craig, I've already had an opportunity to look at some of the papers. So, yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, Craig is chair of this committee, and I'm sure that he's going to be at the meeting, so I feel pretty comfortable with being able to.
Thank you. So back to the recommendations. Do we have a move or recommendation? Councillor Bowyer?
Yep.
And it was seconded by Councillor Lennox. Yeah, just clarifying that. So all those in favour, please say aye. Against? What they noted? Councillor Councillor Nussel and Councillor Goodwin. Thank you. Moving on to page 132, 7.6, which is curb cleaning, intersection safety and improvements. And I invite Kane to the stand.
Nā koutou katoa. This report here seeks the approval to progress some safety improvements at curb cleaning intersection. This is where the Dixon Street, Queen Street, Fire Street, Walton and South Road converge. Quite a complex intersection, but effectively it's two intersections in one. The intersection creates multiple conflict points and it's difficult for drivers to find gaps. There's a report say between 2020 and 2025 there were 10 reported crashes, 4 involving injury. We got a request from the public to look at this intersection because it's quite a prominent place and very busy. We brought this decision to council. So we did test a lot of options. We looked at the minimum, we looked at closing the road at South Road. We looked at restricting movements, and we also looked at a full redesign of the roundabout, ruled that out quite early due to costs and site constraints. Recommended option is to remove the right turn. That's the turn going north on Dixon into Walton's Avenue. This simplifies the decision making, removes the back-to-back right turn conflict that's there already, and will reduce some of the location movements that we're seeing there. While maintaining access for emergency services and then still like the wider network, albeit you need to go down to the roundabout and between one and State Highway. The effect the effect is significantly less fuel movements than closing South Road, which is I think the second sort of option that fits the priorities, and will be the most cost-effective safety response. So subject to your approval today, the next steps are detailed design, including the the integration of the raised pedestrian crossing, targeted consultation, and formalising the change under the work consolidated bylaw.
This question came, what's that, it's subject to NZTA approval.
Funding is at the moment probably good. Obviously, the rule funding.
Because you've got the earliest start date as July 2027. How long would the job take to complete?
It's fairly minor. So it's it would be installing a nib curb to prevent the vehicles from turning into right, and then some surfacing work and some work around the crossing as well. By marking signage.
So how long?
I'd say once we've got tender out, so we need to get tender out, so that usually about a month, 6 weeks, and then contractor availability, and then probably 2 months next working work.
Yeah. Thank you. A couple of questions. Should we go to the Road Safety Council for changes to design to get their thoughts? That's the first question. And secondly, change. And thirdly, do you predict any impact to businesses whilst this works? The reason I'm asking you that is that I'm one of the tourist drivers that drives through Kurupuni, can't find a car parking. They're just sneaking it round, which is very convenient, to then try and get parked on the other side. So that's going to become a no-no zone for more people like me. Yes, so I get that's fine. So my concern would be whatever we put, there will be substantial, like maybe a concrete brick. But yeah, first question, do we not consult? Do we engage with the safety council? Craig, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and yeah, the impacts business.
I mean, we talked to the Road Safety Council we can consult with her. She's in the education space rather than designing, but she's aware of this intersection and second question will be construction, I suppose, to check it, any construction and yeah, that movement will be once we start. So we'll have to do that.
Yeah,
so we have to go into the ground. There will be some surfacing work, but otherwise traffic will still be able to move through. But eventually that movement you're talking about.
And what are your thoughts, Craig, Councillor Barr, on this?
I'll talk about it when it comes up.
Yep.
But I question it.
Thank Councillor Barr.
Is there ability, I have a look at the platforms. There's also a flight issue from into South Road. Cars tend to park right on the corner by the pedestrian, that becomes a real pinch point. Is there the ability to put some yellow lines maybe up 15, 20 metres?
Yes, it's parking restrictions, as part of the detailed design that we're looking to. That's why I've asked the body, stuff into, so we can, see, recess, those no stopping lines will be part of the detailed design. Yeah, but I agree. Thank you.
My question is in relation to, now, this has come as a result of people who have saying that it's something that is needed. How many people does it take for us to act? That's question number one. And why this location and not other locations? Are there any other locations that have similar numbers in regards to crashes? Yeah, because I mean, we've been receiving letters and stuff, and I'm like seeing action as a result, but those are individuals. And so I'm wondering, yeah.
But no, road, but then, no, we look at the sections across the year, so we get lucky with the crash data, so every crash is logged into a system through the police. And we often check that on a regular basis to see if we've seen increased activity in the section. So it's not just generated from the public, although this one is from the
And I think the other question was, are there any other intersections that we're looking at?
Yes, so Bannister is one, Bannister Dixon Street, it's a problem section. It's one in Queen just up there, that warehouse one here, that's often the stop sign gets ignored. So there is a number of them around town. It's just the approach we take is we monitor them if they do showing a lot of excellence and we look at them. So NZTA didn't fund enough safety improvements last time around. We put money into improvements at every NLTP, so we'll do that again this time. So we've got those intersections on our radar.
Thank you. In terms of crashes,
Not really. No, well, we are a rural area, so if you compare it to Wellington, but it's enough to generate a concern.
when you go to the sound rating internally for the intersection, that be necessary now. You go into a review.
Yeah.
So I think people may want to be doing that just go forward into Queen Street.
You won't be asked today because it'll be across. They'll put in going across.
Yeah, so why would you need that now?
So you can go, you can still get through that slip lane, so you don't have to stand so many people in one lane. So you still increase the efficiency with the complexity of the movement. So they'll be separated now to go left only towards the round. Whereas if you're going towards south, you only go right.
It doesn't really mention it, but
yeah,
it's me that's created to another turn going left. So it's possible. But I guess unlike Council Revenants, yes, it's a million points down here. And do you think there'll be frustration with people who can't do what's salary? They go all the way down.
Well, there's around 800. Yeah, but it's the balance between safety and frustration of people can't do things sort of quite complex in session.
Because I do, you will have that option to do the U-turn, when you get to that.
You can go down to the roundabout and turn around roundabout and come down. So 15-second detour.
Yeah.
Are you one of those, you can, number two, you drive around and block until you get back at something?
Yes, lovely, okay.
That's right.
Yes, but I guess.
Any other questions that came? Do we have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Bowyer, seconded Councillor Goodwin. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Bowyer.
Kane, good report. I think it's well worth doing. I am actually one of these people as well. But what it will also stop, and I'm actually just going in that slow lane, next to, when there's a big line up in the traffic, and going down the lane and actually turning dead right to BT1 using the South Road, right? So that'll stop that behaviour, which is fine. But also I'm one of those. I think that it will force a bit more traffic to the roundabout, but there's nothing. The roundabouts you get any accident. And when I can't find parking, then I'll come back around again. So all I think is we think, I do think it should be pretty easy to get.
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably a question. I was just wondering if it might be possible to just put up a sign and say you can't do that at certain times of the day when there's more traffic than less. And that could also be slight.
Any other discussion? No, we've had it moved by councillor Bowyer and seconded by councillor Goodwin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? The motion is carried. Thank you, Kane. Moving on to page 152.7.7. 112, yeah. The revocation of resolutions recounts representation of Carter and Wailara boards. Karen.
Your worship, did you want to speak to this paper? No, I'm happy to take everyone through this paper. It's just we had a conversation to the council. We have previous resolutions on the book that when we have provided loan and guarantee of loan, that council felt that having a council member appointed to as a non-voting observer to the board of the Parliament and to the Wild Hockey Association was a way of ensuring an oversight, supervisory function. We have not made those appointments, and so the recommendation is, given that everybody's busy and that will take a lot of time, actually requiring the boards to come and report to the Finance with Authorities Committee on a 6-monthly basis is adequate oversight for the council to be able to make that continued function that we provide. Happy to take any questions.
So just to reiterate, the intention of this is to make it more efficient, still get the information they really require, and also the feedback on the two groups to collect the information and data and come to the whole council, rather than us having someone at the meeting who is not contributing to the meeting, but is just an observer, then comes back and reports to us. My personal feeling is that this is a much more efficient way of getting oversight. So, any questions of Karen? Councillor Lennox.
Just, I'll talk to this afterwards, but how can we ensure moving forward when we do make these decisions as elected members that they get implemented? Because it's quite possible to do that. None of us will be assigned this.
We could do it at the same time as we make the recommendation.
Fantastic. Yes. Anyone else? Councillor Goodwin.
And the 200,000 loan to the car was it a loan? I thought that there was 20,000 a year for 10 years.
Right.
Right. So it was a grant.
No, it's a loan physically paid over 200,000 and then repaying it by 20,000 a year from the grant that council previously was making.
Thank you.
The both.
Any other questions? Who take to move the recommendation? Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Campbell. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Councillor Lennox and Councillor Boyle. Discussion. Yeah, okay.
Right, discussion. Yeah. I've got a little bit of a BM on that. It's because that present I have absolutely no visibility of how organisations are operating. The current payment positions of level of risk yet. In particular, what is the status of the loan payments and the council guarantee property buyer? And secondly, where does the council sit currently financially, because we've heard not paid from them since the previous discussion. So I'm disappointed that we've understanding the ends to these roles that are not pushing the speed in the as this was explicitly agreed by the previous council elected members. So on that basis, this is proposal, this is a no for me today, but I recommend that we proceed as originally planned and appoint EMs to these boards today. I'm happily put my hand up to my elders, but I believe that this will allow us to properly understand where both entities are at. Once we are satisfied that each organisation is in a space position, we can then consider stepping back. At the very least, we should be receiving reports from both organisations before withdrawing from the website, and failing to do so goes back on our work view as a good government. So I think today we not fall back, but we actually put two people forward to do what we said we're going to do. If they may only 10 meetings, fall back to say actually popular into the fine position or who has chugging along greatly. But I think again, we're not receiving the information from them. Therefore, we need to step up and actually put ourselves in so we can. So it's no.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we could give this to the next meeting and in the meantime request a natural update from each party.
They will be proceeding at our finance risk and assurance meeting next week. So
we could leave this decision until after the next week.
So, this whole process is innocent because it's easy to list, let the recommendation go. I mean, it's self-explains. It's very already fired up now. And get oversight inside of your head. And so that makes weird. What's the chance of discussion? And
yeah.
So
we think if we can come back to working out what this action is from here. So
a sponsor really.
Yeah. So the second. So for discussion now is whether we wait till the next finance risk and insurance report where both parties will be reporting back to us, and then we can have further corridor on this.
So we'll leave the paper to one.
Yeah, so we leave the paper to lie on the table and then we bring it back to council as we just discussed. That's the all those in favour of that approach? Aye. Anyone against? No? Thank you very much. Okay, we will now move on to page 155, 7.8, which is the updated Master District Council. See?
Okay. So this paper is a response to discussions and interactions with council members on the current procurement policy and desire to reflect more of a regional or local suppliers focus and to also focus on economic benefits. So we have looked to the government's, central government's procurement framework and amending our policy to give better effect to that framework. So we are looking to incorporate the principles and the charter expectations, which are mandatory for local government, and then to bring some of those principles through for local focus and economic benefits into the actual rules, which we will incorporate some of the rules, but not all of the rules of the procurement framework, because a lot of them are quite onerous and unnecessary for local government. So I am happy to take any questions on
And sorry, just to be clear, we're also looking to clarify the roles and responsibilities between the strategic policy setting through the policy for members around this table and the implementation of the procurement themselves through the chief executive delegations.
Any questions? Councillor Goodwin.
Explain the H171 evaluation criteria. The criteria used to evaluate responses, etc. I find it okay.
All right, so Florence Break. The evaluation criteria. So it's the criteria used to evaluate responses. These include to assess the extent to which competing responses meet requirements and expectations. For example, criteria to shortlist suppliers following a registration of interest, or criteria to rank responses in awarding the contract. So effectively, when you are making criteria, it's a very normal process, and that criteria will depend upon the actual nature of the procurement itself. But that's what that's trying to say, is that we need to balance all of the outcomes that you want to achieve for a particular procurement, and then choose criteria that give you that opportunity to balance all of those various outcomes.
So before
usually evaluation is contained within the RFI, so yes, so people know what they're being experienced, and they can provide evidence to response.
does it give you room to after the team? The two jobs, two tenders that came in, and they're $1 apart on a $10 million job. Where you could make a decision the way everyone wanted.
By amending the criteria, and you wouldn't amend the criteria after, unless you then went out to everybody to be able to invite more information so that you could be fair, because it's unfair to do that otherwise. But there are more steps that you can put into place. I'm not a procurement expert, so I'm looking to somebody who might be able to, if you are in a position where you want to have more information, then going to all of the tenders and asking for more information. That right, was?
Yes, the tender evaluation work will determine what's attributed to cost. So it could be non-price conforming or lowest price conforming. And it could be about how many, it could be about the local economic benefits from the work. It could be, there's a lot of things that get into the tender evaluation criteria that the tenderer would have to answer. So we're setting out early in the piece so that we've all got a fair chance to put in their best proposal towards a contract. So, so this is about just establishing the fact that we set criteria through the evaluation process, which the evaluation panel will use to weight and score the tenders that they receive.
Yes, but I'm asking about what subjective changes could you introduce if you got in a situation where you had to virtually identical?
The process has to pass scrutiny, so I guess we're trying to remove that subjectivity out of it, so that we've got a clear decision that's based around a set of evaluation criteria, so that we don't have criticism or anything that's sort of creeping into the decision process.
Yeah, but there's usually a little bit of subjectivity, isn't there?
If it's $1 between two contracts, then it'll be apples to apples. We'll be looking for the best local benefit out of the two, if they're that close.
The capability of the contractor, what the contractor, can they deliver it? And if there's some doubts about one versus the other, it's boring, we'll bring that through. Because it's not 100% on all this.
No, not quite. And so those would be put a few areas of subjectivity.
Councillor Nelson?
Not quite sure what you're trying to say here. So with the tender process, when it's such a significant decision that we as council is going to make a little bit later on, is it crossing the line into management? We'd like to see that process before it goes out to tender, so we're really aware of the criteria we making decisions. Because I can think of examples where decisions or recommendations become to the table and have some council at the time. If we saw what was actually in the tender process, would be aware of the bigger picture. See what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do, and as I talked about previously, your role as elected members is to give strategic direction and to agree policy. So this is what we're asking you to do here. With procurement, as with many things, it really depends on the actual procurement that you've got. That you have to be able to craft a plan that responds to the thing that you want to procure, and it's impossible to be able to capture all of that within a cut of policies, for example. So then we work, so you set that to policy and it's better to be principle based, and which is what the government's focus is on a principle based framework, knowing that, you're going to have to be able to derive whatever the criteria is, to be able to match the principles of being fair and being open. And your focus here as elected members is actually you want to give more consideration to economic development within our area and to local suppliers. And that's exactly what's happening. So you're doing exactly your job as governors by saying this is our focus. How that's given effect is through our delegations and through the procedures that come through that. And in my view, it wouldn't be appropriate for elected members after you've set that strategic direction to then be looking at the individual criteria or putting yourselves in the position of choosing the tenderer, because you've delegated that responsibility through the policy and through the financial delegations to the chief executive, and the chief executive has delegated that on. That's why we need to be quite clear when we're communicating that it's not a political decision on who the successful tenderer is, because you've done your job and now it's up to management to do this.
Yep, and I'm slightly informed decisions.
So the decisions, what you can do, so I think the decisions that come back to this council are those that are over this threshold for the chief executive to make a decision. That you've decided as a council that you want to see everything that's over $1 million because it's a significant amount of money. And so that does raise sometimes, queries as to, well, if it's coming back to council, why are you not able to put yourself in that position of making a decision? And like I've just explained, that's your role as a policy makers, but you also want to have oversight of large tenders. If you don't want to be involved at all, then you can up the delegation of the chief executive to be limitless and say, I don't want to do this, and I trust the chief executive to make all of those decisions. Or you can lower that and everything will come to you, and I think council probably right for help. So I think you've decided that $1 million of that will comfort. Yes, we're happy to get on with it.
Any other questions?
Discussion.
Do we have a moment? Second, then we'll move into discussion. Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Boyan. Further discussion?
Yeah, I'm really stoked with the work we've all put in collectively around this procurement policy review. I guess I was a little taken aback by some circumstances last term, just around making some decisions around some topics, etc. But this is really putting a focus or a bigger focus on ensuring when we are making those decisions around local work, local opportunity, local benefits, etc. So I think the tweaks we've made as governors is really positive, and thank you to the team for getting this done actually in such a quick turnaround. Cheers.
Councillor Nelson.
I feel that in the previous policy we had so to make decisions supported by
I'd just like to speak to this term. I like the fact that it's now writing in our procurement policy that there's a defined weighting, which supports economic benefits to Masterton and also obviously flow-on benefits to the Wairarapa. And that we've signalled that this is really important to us with the work that we do. Discussion. So the motion has been put and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Move to page 172, which is 7.9, equitable funding of rules. Next steps. Over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Roger. So this paper is seeking direction from you on the topic of equitable funding of rural roads, which was previously known as forestry on rural roads rating. We included an indication that we would carry out this work in the LTP and within the revenue and financing policy. It's focusing on the high level of wear and tear that's caused by forestry movements, and simultaneously the lower value of land that is valued specifically as forestry land compared to other rural land uses. There is concern that the forestry trucks are causing more wear and tear and paying less in their rural rates to council to cover the costs of that. So the team have looked into this extensively. The background is that we put together a discussion paper looking at all the different ways that we can address this particular problem. And we considered that the best option and the most viable option previously was looking at a differential based on the forestry use, the valuation of forestry land. So having a differential for more of the rural roading costs, which has been adopted by wider and 7 other councils. We identified those limitations and we brought that back to you as council, and now a paper to identify to you and to get sort of direction on where to from here. So the paper, it's a very complicated topic, so I would also need to look at my finance colleagues on how we go about this. But in brief, the limitations that we have identified with further work, there are a number of those around modelling. So the modelling, the wider one model, I'll call it that, but it has been used by other councils. It takes into account the loading effect of trucks, but it doesn't take into account the distance travelled. So how heavy they are, but not how much of the road that they use, which ruts do the user charges. They look at both of those aspects. The data that we have is from 2018, and so it is out of date. Simply the numbers, but also there has been a move for heavier trucks in the last 3 years. We don't have access to the RUC data, so the data looks at the distance travelled. So we would, in order to take a holistic look at actual wear and tear that's caused, we'd need to be able to see how much use there were of the forestry trucks on the road. That data is not available to us. The South North Island Woodley Council said that they could help us with that data for forestry trucks. But in order to be able to look at shares, we would also need that data for the other land uses and not just forestry trucks in order to be able to determine what portion forestry should pay. And we don't know where we will be able to get that. So we don't have a holistic picture of the contributions paid either. What is paid by all land users in terms of RUCs, we don't have that information, and neither do we have information of how much proportion of that we get back in the farm. So either what's being paid or what's coming back to us. We've tried to get information that doesn't exist or it's difficult to provide. Even if we had all of that information and all of that data and all that perfect modelling, we have about 1/3 of the forestry in Masterton district, which is actually in pastoral land. So we wouldn't then be able to sheet home the costs for that forestry use, because we sheet home the cost based on how the land is valued predominantly. So that would be under pastoral, not forestry. So we wouldn't be able to account for 1/3. And it is roughly a third. We don't know exactly, and we've done some work, and Kane's team has helped with identifying where that forestry is across the district. University of Canterbury is kind of looking at that. But again, we've got all of these other issues, so even if we solve that particular issue, we're still having the others. The flip side of the coin is that the modelling that we have done so far, if we did apportion rating the rural roads differently, the benefits to the other land users is actually quite small. So we would end up going through quite a significant amount of work. We still be relying on assumptions that were not concrete, and data that was, not concrete. And at the end point, the actual change in rating of the land uses will be much talk. The council also want to point out that the economic benefit of forestry in the Masterton area is significantly higher to that as what it was in Wairoa. A lot of the money that went outside of all of the money went outside Wairoa, and that was part of the rationale for having differential in the Wairoa district. There is, in the paper details, the economic benefits that we drawn from assumptions again to the actual benefit forestry in the district. Yeah. So, given all of those issues, our recommendation is that we don't take this work any further forward. If we did, we would need to pay to get better clarity around what that data is and the assumptions that we see. I think the outcome is going to be effectively worth the input that we put into it, and the benefits for the end users. So we have a couple of other recommendations around taking other work for one of the issues that we see is that QV the value that QV pays on forestry doesn't adequately reflect but what we consider that it should be, and so taking that matter both to QV and to our local government colleagues is one way of advocating change there. We've also considered the potential of looking at the use of the roads and potential for limiting access or indeed disposal of roads. In fact, we have one forestry user at the end of them, then there could be some consideration and something like that. Now, that would be a big piece of work that we would need to go through, and we would probably need funding in order to be able to do that, but that is a piece of work that we Happy to take any questions, hopefully not too difficult.
I have a question. My first question is, can we share this information in our presentation with South Wairoa and Council Councils?
Absolutely, and all of the background information as well, the modelling and everything that we've done,
so that it makes life easier for them to progress. And secondly, I see there's an LGNZ AGM on the 29th of July, and they're calling for local remits now, so we'll be hearing something on that basis.
We have.
Thank you. Councillor Goodwin.
For that LGNZ approach, could we also through them look at some of the work on clearing wood flows rather than just doing it ourselves? Because I suspect this is a New Zealand wide issue, and it would seem foolish to put a lot of resources into it. So it's effectively done.
So my response to that is the actual closing of the road is well described in the Local Government Act 74 or the BWA. So it's not that's the issue. It's actually determining what the road would be. There's the potential for appeal for any decision to the Environment Court, which we need to make sure that we have all the right data, that it's there to be able to do that. People have a common law right to public channel.
But I strongly support that agreement to project.
Yeah, Councillor Bowden.
Go, guys. Do we have any idea why QV valued farmland so low, but clearly because the information from 2020 shows that it was almost producing 3 times the economic benefits. So this isn't fresh information of the QV.
We detail in the report QV's response for why they value it as they do. No doubt QV would say this is the market value. So we would need to, we talk about undervaluation, but that's an opinion and not QV's position. So we need to understand better.
Councillor Dublin.
So just further on that point, on page 173, where the forestry land average $475, with the ETS on that, what is that roughly? Can someone tell me what that is worth? Is it, have I heard $12,000 or $15,000 per hectare? I don't know, I'm asking.
Some land was, I think, 18. Okay.
Right. So that would elevate that to way above sheep, which is why they're got splits.
Any other questions? I'll move the motion, which is recommendation of the officers reported to be seconded. Councillor Bowyer, we're open for discussion.
I'd just like to make a point. Thank you. So in 2021 at the local government meeting AGM, Gisborne City Council, supported by 10 other councils, actually put forward a remit already. This remit calls for LGNZ to request the Valuer General to amend legislation to allow local government to address growing disparities in basic forestry land and other land uses. Now, I've been to the past really, so this hasn't been brought up again, so I wonder if it's more about where is that our question versus us. And secondly, it was voted and passed 80%. So it's definitely a hot topic, really us, but yes, the works kind of slightly better, which could be divided. Councillor Holmes?
It's definitely, as far as I can understand, QV are ultimately, they haven't got their act together. And years ago, they came out and value every 3 years. Now it's done on computer. They don't even get me. We need to put the commission on there.
My understanding is only come out to probably big complaint, but too big. If it's low, you're not going to complain, aren't you? Any other discussion? No, the recommendation is Councillor Bowyer.
The complaints through QV, it will be interesting to, for instance, see if you have this. We council query. I don't know. That
No, thank you. It's been, the motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? The motion is carried. Thanks to the Department for the work that's been done on forestry. Also, just to let you all know that the Greater Wellington submission for simplifying government has been forwarded to you all, so it'll be on your computers. Now we move to page 186, 7.10, proposed town centre improvement fund payment. And Karen? Yeah. I think you should go there. We have got one there. Oh, you can look at your pretty face.
So councils will take the paper as read. The reason I'm standing up here is I was part of the Scrum group, which was essentially a group formed out of the town centre. So there was the first retail group, as you know, did the report. And that report was commissioned by council and also the Alliance, the Marston Alliance group. We created a small sort of working group with moving strategy, I suppose, into action, and those members include Tukulana, Marston and Trust Lands Trust House, chaired by John Prendergast, our iwi partners, and also council. The idea of that is, look, we have this strategy document that after our workshops or the session we had at Cockburn, we wanted to look at how we could get some low cost quick wins occurring in the main street so that we can improve the aesthetics essentially of Queen Street. And as you know, we sometimes councils are notorious for creating amazing strategy documents, and we don't necessarily act on them. So the group had said to council, look, is there an option of council funding, maybe a bit of a pilot around building owners in Queen Street, maybe assisting them along the lines of improving their facade, so long as it has an aesthetic appeal and it's publicly pleasing. Is there a way that we can maybe contribute towards supporting those businesses to improve the look and appeal of the main street at the same time as we do the upgrades of Queen Street? I said, well, what would that look like? Even though I had a bit of an idea from Whanganui, I'm happy to share that. And essentially, it was about maybe creating a fund and then people being able to apply to that fund to do things such as facade restoration, verandas and parapets, repairs, painting of the shop frontages and removal of the areas of redundant signage that may be there, or unsightly equipment. So, and if I can just go back to Whanganui as an example, we created a thing called a heritage fund as an example, council paper. What that did is encourage, by the way, a stick the building owners to sort of save and improve and restore some of the heritage so that there was a much more positive feel within the main street. And that was part of the town centre regeneration plan. That was fantastic. A real success was the council back then would pay, I think, around about 40% made a change since then towards some of the enhancements. And so we saw the town improve pretty quickly. Some of these old buildings restored back to their former glory with the right colours. We had arrangements in place for the likes of the zine and the town started to improve quite significantly. There's a large number of other things I can talk about what we did in activation, but what we're asking for here, as you recall, we had $200,000 earlier in the late last year that we came to council asking for additional funding. We proposed that out of that 200,000, 100,000 would be allocated towards this particular fund, that also in addition asked for another 100,000, so 200,000 in total. Because we don't think really that $200,000 is going to go a long way, or even 100,000 to be able to achieve everything that we have. So at the moment, the 200,000 that we've allocated is also 100,000 we're proposing is to go towards the sun. The other 100,000 will go towards street furniture, planting the trees, just improving the on-surface products that are a little bit out, that weren't in the original scope. If we look at who that might benefit at the end of the day, or how many beneficiaries we could afford, how many people could receive these grants, I think you would be looking at about 15 to 20 businesses on Queen Street that take advantage of that. If we look at it split out of that 200,000, maybe even a little bit more than that. So that's what we're sort of asking today as the council to consider approving those resolutions that are on there. Would you like me to touch on, or maybe afterwards, there are questions about some other things we have done. And I also
note too that we do, Queen Street building owners do contribute a significant amount of rates to the council. And this is a way of demonstrating our sort of credibility and that we are backing building owners, retailers and businesses in that main street by essentially putting the money where our mouth is when it comes to delivering a strategy, putting strategy into action. So I'm happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of questions. One, has this idea has been floated with potential stakeholders?
This has come forward as a recommendation. So in the back of the report, the first rehab group, the quick wins, and at the back of that report were the low cost wins, and it was identified that this would be one thing that would absolutely take off. It was supported by, it is supported by retailers and building owners.
And the second question is on page 188 and elsewhere in the report, we talk about external painting and heritage colours. I know Braden has its own bylaw and there's the actual colour sheet and swatches. This seems a little bit subjective to me as in heritage colours because might be. So how would you monitor that?
I think we have to do a bit more work. I don't think all the detail. Certainly there'll be some ideas for the process.
Yep.
So I'm going to recreate the wheel. But I suppose that always already a building being painted by paint.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be really great for that.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Lennox and Councillor Holmes.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you. Yes, I do have councillor projects and stuff, and I was doing it. It had huge benefits for the towns. It's nice and tidy and inviting, but in regards to the other groups, I guess in this diagram that you refer to, are they going to back us on this and help support it and implement it? Like it's not going to completely fall back on council, because I guess one of the things I learned from the summit that we went to was that it's a together approach, not just everyone in silos. So yeah, I would like to help.
Look, I made it very clear at the meeting that you can't consistently always look at council and the council needs to do everything because we can't do everything. So this is very much about working with the community. And again, this is encouraging and incentivising, I suppose, to work in that areas. You can't rely on council to do all the work unless we have building owners really do need to take some responsibility with the council. Yeah, we can do it, absolutely can.
And just in regards to the report, correct me, and I will probably not ask questions, but am I able to ask questions in regards to the content of the report that might not be specific to the recommendations today? Yeah, no, nothing's scary. Yeah, okay, cool. So just in regards to the mention of the trees that are going to be, is there an exact plan now that we can show people or present to the public, highlighting the exact trees? Because there's never been a plan I haven't seen. I could be wrong. I'm actually saying X that one's going, X that. So I think that's quite important leading up to the meeting. And the second question is just the reasoning again as to why I have been told, but just the reasoning again as to why we can't repurpose the current fixtures and fittings and where they will be repurposed. And my concern is when we do put new fixtures and fittings in the work block area, the infrastructure would have been done, where they're going to have hodgepodge of old and new. So the consistency there across Queen Street, and old stuff mixed them, not mixed up, but old ends of town versus splash new middle of town. How are we going to?
Yeah, I think one of the
There's a lot of
things there. I suppose if there's still life in some of the furniture, we want to maybe repaint and enhance and reuse if we can. So you want to throw everything out, but again, we want to make sure there's a consistent feel throughout the main street. So remember, we do have a very limited budget. It's the issue, and if we go to what we all wanted, this is 3 years ago, it was around about we had shaved that budget by about $10 million. Just say actually it's not, so this is what funds we do have available. So back then, we could have had some amazing stuff, but I don't really work with now.
But in answer to your question, Laura can get you a placement plan for the tree.
For the trees, yeah.
And I think there's important because a lot of the public are thinking about the trees and wanting to know which ones are going to time, you know, trees and trees, but something we really mentioned about.
Yeah, we can load it. So please don't lose anyway. Remember we on the trees, but we can cover it out.
Yep, page, document library to the side. Line showing you every tree that will be removed. It's not color coded, read the plan for the.
And just to note, you may not have understand, but the current fixtures and fittings have historical referencing back to Joseph Masters and our designs place. Just the FYI there for people that run here. So the rubbish bin is actually in the shape like a barrel, it starts in the curves, replicating his relation to music, etc. So just a little bit of information for you there. Yeah.
Are there any other table names?
I assume there'll be a limit on how much one book. Yeah,
Yeah, it's within the council papers.
so it's not in first and first.
What do you think?
Yeah, just in regards to ensuring that there's equity of access, some of our newer businesses may not be in a position to contribute the 15K. Is there any opportunity for perhaps them to apply for some smaller grant type thing rather than?
So you could apply for 2,000.
Okay. And because well, how I read it was up to 15K, but that's but only 50% of that is going to be covered.
We thought so if they want to be paid outside of that, you might be talking $120,000. So we wanted to make sure that we were feeling that we had the highest in there and the multiple venues as an extraordinary. Yes, so there's different ways. Looking at what I was suggesting too is that the decision makers this would be the scrum around how the grants are issued. So just paying a little bit more the business involved in it rather than just the council. So
awesome, that sounds good. Also, I'm just thinking about where it says a clearly defined brand proposition, and that comes under the implications for Māori heading. So just wondering how, what the brand position approach might be, and Bex touched on that a little bit as well.
So Tiffany and we're working some. Yeah. And so we were talking about how we might be able to weave Māori across some of the designs. So there were some ideas, chats and it was about assistance to library work at the moment is to maybe incorporating a similar feel or theme or something of that nature. So that would be part of the street improvements. Not necessarily the issues. Yeah.
And then lastly, just the form looks good. I was just wondering if there was, because in here part of the criteria is to consider how Manapino and Te Aomori concepts can be better reflected in the CBD. If that would be a question as to when they're applying if they want.
Yeah, and that's why
access.
So they will be putting their use to.
Councillor Goodwin?
I do think with this project that you're not involving enough of the public. CBD is not just building homes and businesses, it's also massive numbers of public use it and are interested in what's happening here. There is an app someone sent me, I'm trying to find for you on that just rather every trade to manage your so I'll flip that around. And I have sent a query, I must admit, to Laura, because to me it's a question just taking every tree out. If you did the trench first, you can then see where the root problems
What's the
exist.
question, Greg? Because we'll come to discussion now.
So the other question, there is a question, you're left with $100,000 to do the furniture and plantings, which I believe is absolutely woefully inadequate and wouldn't be done close. I have put a query in, David, can you remember, I can't. What we spend in 96 on the furniture? Now, admittedly, there was a big area. I would suspect that it was for this area alone, a lot more than 100,000. And since 1996, there has been an increase in costs, which I'm sure you would agree with.
So councillor, are you proposing an amendment to increase, are you proposing an amendment to increase funding?
I'm pointing out that this is
Question time, Greg.
is an ill thought out. That's you have into providing street furniture, which you're not going to be consulting the public on. You will be consulting with a tiny handful of people, and yeah, you're leaving them out of the picture.
Greg, what's your question? Is the question, will we be consulting the public on the street furniture? Is that your question?
The question is, will we be looking at this project with a different set of eyes to see that, doing it for 100,000? So it's just not practical.
I think we are going to look at the best value we possibly can out of the funding available. And if you'd like to increase it, I think we'll do a better job.
I absolutely hear what you're saying, that when you're looking at a patch of land where the ratepayer is paying a different of what it is, million or more, for the differential, for them to be throwing a few dollars every now and then is just that it's just ridiculous.
Do you have
This is
any?
our
Councillor Goodwin, do you have any other questions? Because we will come to discussion.
That's a discussion point to the council, because the council is the one who have identified funding on this. So it's not necessarily.
We don't have forum, we never had. We could discuss this in council.
We did.
It didn't, well, it didn't, it hadn't did. And aware of it.
But we've had workshops that have included business owners down there and building owners in those discussions. So
do you have another question, Brent?
Have you thought about, you've talked of planting or whatever buildings, but for a little extra money, you can plaster. And many of the buildings around Houston, fine, land trusts, quite a few of them were plastered with a golden sandstone, which could give the area very distinctive and a bit like Wanneroo has with their limes. Is it worth asking you, considering looking back at if you're going back to a heritage rather than just painting?
it's certainly an option. Yeah, so
I'm just saying, yeah, while my building might be 100,000 to paint, the plaster you're talking, it's quite.
Councillor Goodwin, that's information that would be helpful for the group to consider. Well, we've got team members on the front. So we've got team members on the scrum that are meeting, you know, who are from the CBD, etc. So that's information that can be passed on, isn't it? Do you have any other questions? Brett?
So I can. So we can see. Yep. And if you have any more prescribed, and maybe you see me email. See if I can.
Okay, and I am waiting on Laura's response on the phrase, why can't you pick between trees? Rather than just blanket, I'm saying all trees there.
Yeah, so we.
Unfortunately, Laura has been affected as an area at the moment due to a health issue. But from my understanding, the ring main design is given the route, the best way for that ring main to go in, and that any tree that is in the path of the ring main will require those trees to be removed, because we're going to severely affect all of the root structures by doing the ring main trenching.
That's okay. And we did get put straight on this. That was the first. That was presented to us. The only issue with that is when you look at the trees that they identified already as being moved, the trench is very close to another, dare I say, Dengo that I've that's okay, it's standing. Because the one that's 2 metres away, no, that's good. Was done in anywhere near that. But I'm, so those sort of issues definitely be discussed. And the reason I say it is that it's simply, if you value the trees, I mean, to put money terms on it, to replace, you know, an 8 metre tree, I would estimate that to get it and confident the whole. And for a tree. One tree. For one tree. Yes. Well, you go and find the name needs that tree and replace it. If you chop one down and you say, oh, look, you don't need it. So I'm going to put one back there that's moving. Yes. So that's what a tree is with it.
Yeah, but isolating trees.
What is not it? If there's nothing wrong. We people might think.
Councillor Goodwin, did you finish them?
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that there would be, the design's been mapped out, best economical solution to get this ring main worked out. And if we try and redivert to avoid a tree, then there's going to be other unintended, so we can put involved and all these other things, and put large disturbance and other interference work. So yeah, everybody has worked towards limiting the impact, but obviously achieving the purpose of this whole.
Do you have any other questions, Brett?
So is it possible to talk with someone that should be here or?
Meet with you, and then we'll line.
Meet with you.
Meet with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Can
By definition, a pilot is short term. What's the thinking about what happens post this pilot?
Yeah, so the document you will see is separated, and there's sort of longer term gains that they do work associated with money, and that will link into our consent development plans. So once we get our development plan, where we see particular activities occurring, whether it's more conventional, it might be that we allow residential, through multi-storey residential in the main sort of street. So those sorts of things, and so some of the quick ones are low cost, high impact. And the things around website creations and all that, but I don't think website creation is going to do too much. I think physical works right now, so like that.
any other questions? Is anyone willing to move the motion? Councillor Nelson, so there are the recommendation is, excuse me, council approves the establishment of a pilot town service fund. Agrees to earmark 100K, won't read it all out, agrees to match that with an additional 100K, and agrees the pilot will run through until the 30th of June 2027, and approves the criteria for the town centre improvement fund as outlined in this report, given also there's quite a detail, further detailed discussion. So we have that moved by Councillor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Lennox. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, I think it's sorry. I think it was, I think, when the Wiley made to support us, so there's, you addressed that by $8,000 and access to. And I think, often we look at council community briefing sometimes amounts, not quite like, the protection of buildings in our town, not exactly the same. And even the rest of working nature of my function. But I think it's really well why don't we let the running schools reading that treaty to empowering community and to really get the limit about money.
Yes, well said, I don't agree with you, but just I have quickly looked over the ones online, thank you. And I've emailed them to all councillors because you will see that I'm pure the trees along with the extras and the sands, which is appreciated to assist that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Craig, then Gary.
Tim's thoughts, this is the great start, it's not the finish, it was the great start, and we'll go start.
Yeah, very well. I think, it's interesting for those of us to go back a little bit. We were talking at one stage of spending absolute millions on doing the CBD, to come up with something like this is to me, it's just a huge plus. The big part of the success of this, I was trying to see, is going to be the input we get from the landowners, the business owners. And it's just great that organisations like the Lands Trust and Trust Helps and parliaments, because they have a big part to play. So I think going forward, this is great. Brett was talking about getting the public consultation. I actually believe that this is, I'm a great fan of public consultation, but I believe that this is something where it's really more about the landowners, the business people, the trust houses and whatever, rather than the general public, because they're the ones that are going to have to put the heavy lifting in to make this work. So I don't particularly see the public needing to have too much to say on this.
Just wanted to add that I think this is a great way to build rapport with the business ownership, but I'd also like to see maybe a little bit more mentoring perhaps with some of our newer businesses in regards to applying and successful funding.
So we've had this moved by Councillor Nelson and seconded by Councillor Lennox. Put it to vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That's okay, so the motion has been carried. And we've been going longer than 2 hours now, so we'll break for 15 minutes. 56. We'll move on to page 198, which is the 7.11 approval to consult on the street tree policy. And I'll hand over to Alice. Alice. Welcome. We're getting second here, so that's good. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm going to take you over some key points about this paper. This report seeks council's approval to consult on a proposed street tree policy. In particular, the report asks council to approve consultation on the proposed policy and agree to 2 additional unscheduled meetings of the hearing committee.
one on the 15th of April for a hearing, and one on the 20th of May for deliberations. The proposed policy replaces the existing street tree policy. It sets out the overarching framework for how street trees are planned, managed and removed. If approved, consultation will run from the 25th of February until the 25th of March, and this will be alongside consultation on the alcohol control bylaw. The hearing is being proposed to take place on the 15th of April, followed by deliberations on the 20th of May. Officers aim to have the policy in place by July 2026. You'll take questions.
Any questions for us? Councillor Boyer.
Looking at this and just the flavour at the moment, is it worth possibly putting in the notable fee schedule?
Yeah, the notable trees are covered under the district plan, which is why we put it out of scope. It could be provided to projects, but it's not in the context of the policy.
Yeah, we'd like to keep those things in the I'd like to refer to them. I think we should have some, on our references within that. Otherwise, we have to go into two things.
Any other questions? Councillor Leon? Just to clarify for myself. So if I was a property developer and I was subdivision, do I go to add in my plan? I've added my plan what type of specimen tree I'm planting, and that becomes part of the consent. And you stand and say, yes, they are the right type of trees.
Yeah, so as part of the consent process, you have a condition saying that you need to provide a planting plan as part of the section 54 process.
Yeah.
So you provide that planting plan and be in accordance with a set of procedures which outlines what trees you can select, placing, etc. And then that will get signed off at the 264 stage. That's it with the planning team.
And that will eliminate this.
Yeah, so it's
Lovely,
the, yeah, so it fits the speakers you can choose, spacing, etc. And that will all be developed in accordance with the policy to help you eliminate it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So just in regards to the consultation, like I know this is going to happen, but do we earmark those specific subject matter experts outside of council that the consultations come out? I know there's a few people locally who have a huge amount of knowledge and expertise around trees and cover environmental stuff. So, but do we sort of make it known to them?
Yeah, so we've got a list of key stakeholders, which includes arborists, developers, etc., and they will be emailed directly, encouraging them to consult, and then it'll be open to the public.
Have you got Gwen's email?
I have for that.
Thank you. Councillor Whipple.
Just a clarification, really, isn't it? The way policy works at the moment really is this. The developers have got to say, do they? What sort of trees are going in their development?
At the moment, or under the new policy?
Yeah, at the moment. That the developers basically decide what trees go in their developments at the moment. Is that the way it works? Just reading here, it looks like it says that.
It's through the development process. It's purely focused around the engineering, road networks, stormwater systems, sewer systems. And then towards the end of it, we get sort of a planting plan that comes through as part of the fire site officer 224. We don't have many limitations in regards to what the developers can do. So we do end up, anecdotally, we are inheriting future problems because of,
that's great. That's the clarification on it. So that takes that way down. It's going to be this group of the fellowships group of specialist people. That's great.
Yeah.
Is it possible to add in some of the bits from Auckland tree policy, where they talk about the percentage of large trees versus small trees, the standard of cover, and an area in the sorts of issues?
Those specific details will be covered under the procedures, which we're still working on. I'm not sure how much detail we'll be putting into that, but
I'm just asking to keep it, I mean, I like the Auckland one. Put the resources in it. And I think it's, very good. And I just would like you to.
We're confident, and they do have a very difficult climate, so don't come winter, but we will have a look at their procedures. Very different. Quite different. But let's not growing.
They grow.
They also do.
Any other questions? No? Yes. Just in regard to the trees that have already been planted recently that are not they'll remain in place. But remember there was something about some trees being planted down the street and being removed quite there. So I guess my question is, current trees that are in place that you're aware of are going to be problematic in the future, will they get removed or will they stay in place?
that'll be assessed kind of on a case by case basis. So there'll be a criteria under the procedures that council will follow if they're considering a tree for removal, and it covers every situation. So they'll kind of just assess case by case if it's going to be causing these issues. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? I have a mover for the recommendation. Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Bowyer. And now, any further discussion? I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move to 7.12, which is on page 228, which is the draft plan 36, 37, and consultation. AJ?
And sorry, you haven't got rid of them yet. I will do a brief introduction. So, the paper is to get feedback from you around the consultation approach that we are proposing to take. So, as you know, we ordinarily at this time of the year get clarification and direction on the items that are to be included within the consultation document. Indeed, if we do proceed with the consultation document, we are recommending that we consult this year on user fees and charges. We didn't consult last year and we're not able to amend the Food Act, which requires consultations when UK. So we will specifically looking at those. Majority of the fees and charges are in line with inflation, nothing significantly different there. We're also looking to include within there the charging framework for our proposed lease policy. So you'll know that we are amending that so that we are more equitable to all parties in these land facilities from us, and further detail in that report, and that will come through the consultation document as well. There are no significant changes to the proposed plan of work in year 3. We're getting on and doing what we are proposing to do. So there's nothing within that we need to seek feedback from itself, other than those items I've just outlined. But here is AJ to take you through the budget variances to what we have proposed in year 3.
Thank you, everyone. So coming back to our proposed annual plan for 26-27, through the workshop on our original draft plan, we are proposing a rates increase of 5.2% on average. That's increasing the rates requirement from 50.4 million to 53.4 million. And our capital expenditure is reducing compared to the long-term plan from 53.7 million to 48.4 million. Those proposed changes that we've had in the apparent are not reflecting any changes to civil requirements. Some of the key variants you'll note in the recommendations are additional storm water and water maintenance work for its own playground, working on a State Highway 2 master plan development plan for sporting technical. In terms of operating in terms of changes that happened during that we've identified as part of the work to date, we've identified variations in infrastructure and assets relating to the work program, reduce our capital expenditure for here. So under key variances, for instance, on page 230, capital expenditures expected to be lower due to changes in timing. Obviously, with the changes in decisions relative to the long-term plan in 2024, decisions around the house extension and transfers are no longer required. We've changed phasing of our projects. Insurance premiums have been positively impacted due to a reduction in premiums last year, and that flows through. As we've referred to in the workshop, staffing personnel costs are budgeted to reduce slightly, and then we've got the benefit relative to other interest costs being lower than was expected due to reduced interest rates at the time, what we assumed that particularly. We are currently proposing that levels of service remain unchanged, noting fully that we have proposed for change levels, as we would need to consult. As Karen said in there, the two proposed topics for consultation are on user fees and charges in the lease policy charging front. This stage, I haven't got anything else to say.
Questions, please. Thank you, AJ. Councillor Nelson.
Thanks, AJ. Just around process, this is you're not going to then impact something. We just need you to share the process.
It's sharing the process at the moment and the nature of the consultation documents. So part of this paper is one to get guidance from council is what we will consult to the public on.
Okay, so if I, for example, said this would not be the time to raise it.
No, that would come following consultation and feedback, and then we get the chance to debate what we actually do and don't do.
Yep, so you're sharing the process with us.
And sharing where our draft plan is at the moment.
Just to that. Document.
Yep.
That's how proposed rates increase. So that at that point you wanted to raise your concerns, objections, or thoughts around what that proposed increase is. That would be.
That's the next meeting.
That's in March. March.
You comfortable with that, Tim?
Yep.
Councillor Goodwin.
Just to that point, that may be the time for councillors to comment on that. But in the consultation with the public, for instance, such as more reductions, council can look at with the consultation. And they're not.
Oh, it's also, yeah, I think
Yes. So that's all I.
yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just one thing, just to check, AJ. So basically, we're consulting only on two subjects.
We're also testing back some of those things that we've heard through the engagement and the development plan. So that is a separate consultation effectively around that differently. So it doesn't confuse the development plan and the ANN plan. So the ANN plan is having worked through all of our budgets proposals, this is the rates increase. We're looking for specific feedback on the fees and charges. And then that list was, so there's effectively two, but no doubt people will tell us what they think about the rest of it as well.
That's the point I was going to make. There'll be some room in the consultation for the general public to have their say on a plethora of other things that they want to.
We won't specifically ask for particular details. We will say if you want to provide us feedback on
Yeah.
Not that,
Yeah,
as we all know, you do.
And I think it's working with straight away, they can only comment on fees and charges. I think that's.
We will clarify those before.
Councillor Holmes?
And you mentioned the average of 5.2. What are the rule rate? What's on it?
From memory, we were talking sort of around mid fours, wasn't it?
4.3.
4 points. Mid
Okay,
fours, yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Other questions? I'm happy to move the recommendation in this report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Holmes. And now we're open for discussion. Right then, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, AJ. Now we move to page, the supplementary agenda, which is 7.03, nomination for appointment to the upper room and advisory group. Karen, you've got it's supplementary agenda.
Sorry about lateness, we were advised fairly recently that the Upper Ruamahanga Advisory Group has been reconstituted by the Greater Wellington Regional Council, and there's an expressions of interest for community members at the moment, and the terms of reference include 3 elected members of appointment from this very council.
Okay, so do we have any nominations? David? Oh.
Prison 3. Providing David.
Do we have any further nominations, Jason?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Lennox in deputy adjacent to the room.
We need 3 though, so who are you recommending? With
Everyone.
who are the 2 though? You need 3.
Long back there again.
Okay.
So just to clarify, I'm happy to nominate Councillor Holmes. So,
Okay, so we've got 2 motions. We go with. So the first nomination was from Gary. We have, which was for Brent, David, and Craig. We have seconded for that. Seconded by Tim. If you could raise your right hand, all those in favour, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 3. That's failed. The second nomination is by Craig. Do I have a seconder for that? Which is David, Craig, and Stella. Do I have a second? Are you happy to be nominated? Yeah, do you have a? Yep. So we've got David. Yeah, we can.
Oh, since my recommendation, but I'm prepared to move that, because it doesn't really, the makes, I'm still very happy with that, that committee, if I'm happy to move that.
And second. Okay, so we've moved by Gary and seconded by Wairika, Craig, David, and Stella. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Councillor Nelson. Thank you. So that's done. Yes, I was just saying if there's anything else that we need to pass. Thank you very much for your attention to that. And then we move to reports for information, which is page 237, 8.1, which is strategy, policy and governance activity report. Karen.
on this day, I'd just like items, the rates capping submission, included as an attachment to the report that was circulated amongst councillors. It actually in last week, and so the support information is included. Just highlighting the development plan, we've carried out extensive engagement over the Christmas period, before Christmas, since Christmas, and we've got some really good scenes and information come back from that, which I will test through the process back with the community, just to say, have we heard right, and we have all of the things you'd like to focus on now. And just for information, we do have a hui that's set up for Manawhānau Māori on the 26th of February in the evening, that our for representatives and whether we're going to be assisting with those. And of course, we have a by-election nomination. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions, Karen? Councillor Nelson?
Is there a management action?
We've had quite a lot lately. There's definitely more from media organisations, media wanting us to do their job for them.
Thank you.
But yes.
Councillor Bucket?
You have council's art portfolio. Do we have an art portfolio? And is it limited?
Art portfolio. We do have, as we've got that have been donated to us. Yes.
We haven't gone out and brought an investment or anything like that.
We have them like we don't have them like.
Councillor.
Just one of the questions in some way, listen to the information, they talk about all attendance rates continue to improve, and they talk about 55%. Does that mean that only 55% of kids are regular attenders at school?
No, it means that it's quite confusing that on the number of students who would be there over 90% of the time is 55%. But on any given day, it could be, just varies. Yeah, but it looks like that lately, for example, we have 600 kids, only 350 will be here. No, it's only, it's the amount of kids who would be at 90% of the time. I was confused. Slowly.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll move to the report. Thank you, Karen. Going to the second now. Councillor Bowyer. Is there any further discussion on any of the information there? No?
Yeah.
Just
I'd like to say one this is their right. So yeah, just needs to be noted.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Otherwise, all those in favour? Aye. Against? The motion is carried. Welcome, Corin. We move to page 245, which is 8.2, the community X.
Not very nice.
I've read the report, just note a few quick things. So really pleased about the success of this Goblet program, especially through the period when we've had the library and the temporary space. And just following up on that, noting that as anticipated, some of our stats are down, and that will continue through this period because the library's in a small space. So we've got less that we're operating in, but we're anticipating as we move back into the new space once the library is complete, those statistics will rise again. Also in the library space, I'm really pleased to share with you that we just yesterday got news that Tiffany was put an application into libraries for grant funding to enable us to do some more stuff, and successful in getting $418,000. And what that does is it enables the outside area to be developed both in conjunction with the children's area, so there'll be a flow from that out into a learning play environment linked to what's happening in the library. and wider development in the Rushgate Square area so that the learning environment of the library isn't just about the building, but about that whole environment around there. And also solar on the building, which will reduce our energy costs as well. But fabulous news and something that Tim put together and really drove to get that.
Please believe it.
New space being developed.
Yeah. Yes.
Please believe it.
Yep. Please work on that. But we want to let you guys know before obviously we're not as with it. But yeah, really good outcome.
So,
and also just quickly, Contino has continued to be consistent in terms of the number of people engaging through that, and it's great that that is continuing because it's another great platform for us to get on the minute feedback from the community about what's going on. And feels like a while ago now, but we haven't had a meeting with them before the group and was fantastic, and also just great to be that feedback in terms of fun and what happened in there and that as well. And I'll take any questions.
Just a question. Split rather than it together with the on the
Sure.
sets, especially given that our rates requirement is different for each, and we are considering our service model split. So if you could do that for me, that'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions? No, terrific. That's great news. Lauren, thank you very much. So do I have a move on here to move the report? Do I have a second? Councillor Lennox, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Now we move to page 251, 8.3 infrastructure and assets activity report. Welcome, Oz.
Yeah, so take the report as read. Some of the staff aren't available here to cover questions due to some operational demands, but Kane is here to answer any questions on the roading section. I would just like to highlight a couple of things in acknowledgement to our utilities team, who have been out in alternate nights dealing with the storm impacts that we've had. So they were sort of generally on the spot in a couple of situations where they were able to mobilise and get a lot of resources in place and preparation, because there just been issues to arise. So yeah, just acknowledge the amount of work that they put in over the last few days. A couple of things also is the transfer station solid waste tender is progressing, and the site visits today around facilities with those interested in putting in a proposal. For the compliance and asset side of things, the Happy Water Race, we did some work clearing the channel with Greater Wellington Regional Council a couple of weeks back, just to get it open. But there are obviously still some issues that are being identified with unmaintained sections of the race. And some further work on, I guess, the RMA reforms on the water race will be brought back to council a couple of meetings away from now. In regards to projects, the request for tender on the winter working upgrade, that's on the decks now, so that closes on the 3rd of March. Evaluation will meet on the 23rd. And also just in regards to the CBD infrastructure upgrade, we're meeting with the retailers on the 25th of February on the evening at the 10 o'clock cafe. So running through the project and also some fund, etc. That's improved.
Any questions? Councillor Bowen, Councillor Lennox, then I've got a question.
Thanks for your question. We've had some roughly work in the last few days. Is any indication of any issues with that?
There's some expert, but I'm speaking. Hanging the trees down. Quite effective. The trees there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Oz. What else? Just around Memorial Park, is that a full roof replacement of the grandstand and all the buildings that go along there? So what's the full roof replacement of
So that is the grandstand.
the grandstand?
Yeah, so, yeah.
That's cool. And then, my second question was just around the memorial, not just the little park, but it's the system text. Just, you talked here about a shortfall, so is it a scary shortfall? Not too scary.
It's within that policy threshold, so it isn't required for you. But around noting, yeah, just.
To be correct. Yeah, that's wrong. And I think, and just a question, it's amazing, it's really, what's the tank regarding the town hall, what's the tank?
So that was, it was what was, there was a big underground diesel storage tank to run the old heating system.
Yeah.
And so that was, yeah, taking that without any issues, no ground engines down. It was solid for us.
Cool. And then just in regard to the activation phase, the plan that was being developed, when there's no dates around implementation of the activation phase?
No. At this stage, we, yeah, the demolition work is on track and it's going really well. So we are exploring, I guess, what options are moving forward from here, about our obligations with them and whether there's any opportunity to maybe just shorten the process and not overinvest in the yeah, potentially. But we'll be coming back to the council.
That's right. Just that, because obviously people are expecting the information plan.
We're just looking through that at the moment.
Yeah, and it's all like this with.
Because one of the things that we don't want to do is spend
100%
more money than we need to.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
Thank you.
I've just got a couple of questions. On page 258, you talk about the War Memorial Stadium feasibility report. Now, for some reason, I thought we were expecting that to come back to us for another look at that, sort of in the just before Christmas. It just talks about it being taken under consideration, but will we get an opportunity to talk about that? Because more work is being done on potential there.
Yeah, so the First House Recreation Centre stadium needs a visibility report is sitting there, but it's really to be workshop.
Yeah.
But we were looking to when to schedule it in the calendar.
That's all I need to know. So it's coming back. Discussion.
It's going to,
coming. Because it's important not to think of that in isolation. It's important to think of this. My other question was, I had someone from Riversdale contact me about the Southern Reserve and the toilet work that's going there. If you could just explain to me, my understanding is that we're moving from the Southern Reserve to the Riversdale car park, correct? So is that, but are we actually putting in new amenities or is it a relocation?
No. So I think very similar to so Riversdale Beach, there's community association through their long 10-year community action plan identified relocating the toilet out of Southern Reserve to the car park as one of their priorities. And so we tabled this through the long-term plan, because it's 2024 one, and money was allocated to relocate. It's called like we're relocating the toilet, but we're not relocating the building. We're putting a new facility in and decommissioning the toilet in the Southern Reserve.
So it was a request from the community to do this and we're actioning it?
Yeah.
Correct. And is that because there are toilets there at the surf bar?
Yes, so there's, well appointed toilets. There's the Boardroom Reserve playground, they've got the surf bar toilets, and there's the Southern Reserve toilet, but it's not an accessible toilet.
Okay. I just needed to get back on it. That's all. Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thank you. Just at the beginning, I mentioned about weeks done by those crews overnight. It's not like it was phenomenal. So if you went out the next day, you really noticed it's incredible. So kudos to those people who did that. In regards to Hindi Lane with the avian optimism.
Yes.
I do know lots of people were going, no, well, we're going out and picking up birds and clearing things up. So our contractors doing that as well. Just people I know getting a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
We can't have a contractor living there 24/7.
yeah,
We're scheduling two visits a day. We're going out on the phone. We're going around trying to do as many as they can take. And yeah, that's intervention, seizing anything that's dead or close to expiring is removed. Because it's a matic cycle, it's an endemic issue that's here all year round. It's just that we've gone through a very, I guess, the perfect storm of summer conditions that has made this rife throughout the country. So Napier, Kapiti Coast are experiencing issues with it. We've had the birds at the wastewater treatment plant been affected by it. We've also got Henley Lake being affected by it. So getting in, removing the birds, trying to break the maggot life cycle is the main intervention. And then weather conditions cooling off, water conditions improving will all play a part in breaking the cycle as well. NPO have advised that even though we can't stop groups intervening, ideally we would like our contractors to be the main people involved in this, because there are, I guess, the risk of if birds expire off-site and there's not proper disposal methods in place, that will continue to be a feature. So they've got to be buried at a certain depth, and there's all these other things around have to deal with.
could there be a way of them working together? That's I know.
Yes, so we are.
Yes.
So we're not, yes, we are notified groups of expressed an interest trying. So any birds that are in the early stages of being affected. So there is communication between the parts contractor
and just around the activation space, with the commissioner's recommendation or requirement that is in place, we talked about process of life. And if we aren't implementing that activation place, aren't we breaking the process or ignoring a recommendation?
Yes. If there's a way to fast track the process that gets us to the end state, then we would put an argument forward to say that we can save $1,000 because we produce.
Yeah.
But if we are obliged, then we will follow the process.
So the activation space could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, is that what you're saying?
It's still to be determined.
Sorry, have I said, I must have missed this, and I'm not being facetious. Have I missed, is the activation space?
Yeah, we know we had a meeting last, one of our meetings last year, we had it on. Laura presented what it could look like and what the approximate budget might be.
That's what it could look like. Is that the actual activation space that's going to be repeated? So it's not a clear thing. There's not a I remember seeing something, but it's not a plan and activation space yet.
Example of what could be.
Karen? So the activation plan is a description of the type of items that will be considered. Wasn't a physical plan of what it might look like. That's to be worked. So that plan was required as part of the resource consent to be signed off by the consents manager, and that was. So if there is a change to those items within that plan, so for example, if there was going to be lighting and there's no longer going to be lighting, time of year that it's going to be carried out and doesn't need any lighting, and it's for a short period of time, then there would be an amendment. So so the council would put in an updated plan, and again that would be signed off by the planning and consents manager.
So for clarification, an activation plan came to council for approval.
No.
So there's no actual approved plan that's come to council with costings.
That wouldn't be required. Council direction to get on and the thing, which was take down the town hall and worked on the replacement. So that was a separate decision that you gave direction to. So as part of that, there was putting in the consent application and going through the consent. So the consent hearing didn't require it to need to come back to council. And so officers put that through to consent manager, as is appropriate.
Just for clarification, no information, so it's been developed. We just had that thing that came to council.
It was approved by the planning and consents manager, consistent with the direction from the hearing commissioner, and it's on. I'm looking at that because it's on the website just to make sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just, I'm leaving David.
Just on the back of what is there an appetite to thank organisations who contributed to getting services back on board? Like, is there something we can put on the Facebook page? Just I know it's their job, but this could be something that council, on the social media. Just give it.
Before we get to comments, any other questions of Ian? Gary?
And we did say when we're talking about the master plan for the town hall, but we did say that when we're looking at doing that, would be in discussions with the local community groups, folks who are already interested in being part of that.
So wherever the space is developed, will require something to that.
Any other questions? No, we'll move the report. I'm going to move it and do we have sickness? Councillor Holmes, and now we'll come to discussion, Dave.
Yeah. Steve, of Nigel Lane and Duncan, have interacted with the users of the water. The users are very happy with what's happening. Not happy that we're running out, but we're getting there.
Any further discussion, Tim?
Just that guy Duncan, he just keeps coming out in the most positive ways, like the COVID industry. I'm certainly can get because he's someone that seems pretty cool. I don't know.
I was out at Redmond Street talking to one of them, like we did there on this road.
All right, so we have a mover and a second. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we're on to 2060, which is the mayor's report. And on your actually, sorry, 259 meeting report from council. So, Stella, you wanted to do a brief update, didn't you?
Yeah, I haven't yet had out of this meeting for 2 years, but that will be next week. Secondly, produced steering wheel for the meeting last beginning of this month. And the focus here is around obviously developing the group to be more self-led with the need for council to sort of fall back with it, which is really great. So next week, there's 5 of us meeting for a workshop on how we devise a plan for that, so that the people of the refugee community are leading. So that's something. And that's it.
Robin, was there anything you wanted to bring up today? No? Okay. Anybody else wanting to report Craig? And then waiting.
Just a quick. So, Road Safety Council, we had a meeting. And that's I was the chair of that. Quite interesting. Local done well. Continuing to go forward and do the moment, and hopefully the deliberation weeks. With them. And legal transport committee down one that last week, really quite interesting. Incredible forum, and I'm very keen on roading and very happy. If that is the desire, I'll be. Thank you.
It's waiting.
So nominations are live for the Youth Kids with Disability Advisory Group, so we can share both, that would be great. Also, the long-term plan meeting that's going to be held at Te Rangi Māori on the 26th of February. I'm going to be there. It'll be great to see other councillors in here as well. So we're doing consultation of the long-term plan at Te Rangi Māori Marae. The focus is on iwi, mana whenua, angata whenua. But yeah, I've said that I'm going to be there, so if we can have more councillors, I'm sure they'll be great. They'll be happy to see you. Oh, excellent. Right. And then we've got 2 students who are being awarded for the 2-year program, which is the best. Rose Hyder Harmon and JJ.
So just on that, Deborah Davidson and Warika have been working on this council, which is fantastic. And we will bring the 2 to council to introduce them to you, and we'll have a work program which will include some civic engagement as well as what Deborah and Warika planned for them as well. But it's great that we've got 2 youth candidates. So well done. Thank you for that. So that's meeting reports from councillors, and now we'll move to 8.5, which is meeting report. So I've put on your desk my activity is external meetings since our last meeting, so I won't. But I will highlight a few points. One is I met with Harry Harper-Finn. Many of you might know him. He's one of the leaders of the local Sikh community. And they're looking to build a temple off State Highway 2. Harry has his home there and his land there. And even though it's in Carlton district, most of their community reside in Masterton, and there's great growth in the sector and many of the businesses and established new businesses in Masterton, which is fantastic. And also many of you will be aware that they're part of their beliefs and lifestyle service of the community, and they've been doing a lot of work with food community groups, and that's across all ethnicities. So they're wonderful, actually, and a temple would support the community, and the community they do great sort of treat more people to move here. So they're working with Carlton District Council at the moment, but I just wanted you to know of that. I went to Party at the Pools, which is our annual event that we do in conjunction with some other sponsors for road safety students, and we recognise the children who volunteer their time throughout the year, all Warwick schools. Was privileged, Kim and I went to Kaha to witness the historic signing of the Unique Forestry Partnership Agreement between Rangitani and JNL. Our condolences to Nelson Martin's family, and we recognise him and his strength and what a legend of a man and the difference that he made to our community. So I'd just like to acknowledge Nelson. Myself, along with him and some other councillors, attended the sod turning on one of the new Trust House social developments in Marto Street, which was also attended by Minister Chris Bishop. And this project is one of many which are about to begin. Short Street's about to kick off. There's Carcass Street as well. And in Marto Street, there will be 14 new 1 and 2 bedroom social housing units. One of the many housing projects, Trust House, which will result in 300 new houses built in us in 5 years. I also attended the Riversdale Beach AGM, who acknowledged how great council I work with and the strong partnership and the terrific relationship. So that is great. And the highlight of the meeting was the life mentorship for Marguerite Estrat, who works very closely with us. In fact, she's working even more closely with us, but she's also our contact for civil defence emergencies, and over the weekend was very helpful. Attended the gifting of 30 new bikes to Marsden Primary School by the charity Ride Holidays in recognition of road cyclist Ray Putt, who recently died as a result of the cycling accident. The bikes were greatly received and complement biking skills track, which is near completion at MPS. And a group of local cyclists turned up and I think bikes in time for the new school term. I want to congratulate our comedy team who worked in partnership to help present and celebrate Waitangi Day with the whānau day at Rakaha, which was well attended, and it was great to be there. Lots of positive feedback on social media, especially in particular. And also attended the Sports Aircraft Association National AGM. These people would make their own planes. It was fascinating. And there's about 70 planes there, and they go 1 year's in the South Island, 1 second year's in the North Island. They just loved it. They said, what a fantastic venue. They just couldn't praise it highly enough. And they now, well, actually two of them, and they're looking at returning here in the second year. Which is terrific. And the final one, these are the highlights, obviously. The final one was attended the reopening of the George Sutherland block at Waikato, which has been closed for nearly 3 years for strengthening and refurbishing. And man, the staff and students are lucky. That's phenomenal. Anyway, so all my other meetings are there, so if anyone has any questions, they can answer any of them. Otherwise, it's been a great 6 weeks. Perfect. So that's my report. I will move it. Thank you, Stella. All those in favour? Against? Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Now we move into public excluded.
I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Yep. Stella, all those in favour? Thank you very much. And thanks for joining us.